Okay. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Drop Your Noise. If you are tuning in, this is part 2 with Benedicte. And hi, my name is Kirti. Welcome. This week, we dived deeper into lateral thinking. And I enjoyed this conversation because she took me back to my days in London, where whenever I walked into the corporate atmosphere, I always felt like I didn't really fit in because my background is not really corporate. And the other thing she invited me to was when I would do courses, there was a lot around either race or gender. And Benedicte said, well, what if we went one step further? What if we took this about lateral thinking into diversity of thought, diversity of character, and also the diversity of our backgrounds? Would that actually make much more sense for our teams, for the way we go forward, even in the way we are approaching tech? She left so many nuggets in this episode. I don't want to give it all away. But one thing I would like to invite you to this conversation is, are you outsourcing your critical thinking? Now, enjoy this week's episode, and I look forward to connecting with you after. The word diversity in today's world at the moment is a very much a fragile word, as to speak. How do you feel about it?
So I think that diversity, first of all, one thing about diversity and, diversity in the workplace, for instance, very often there are a lot of limitations that come with the concept of diversity. And limitation thinking like, okay, we're talking about gender diversity or we talk about racial diversity. Very often we've got only like a few parameters related to diversity. We don't always look at other aspects, such as, for instance, diversity in academic background, right? I mean, the example that I was giving you earlier, the fact that, oh my God, I've got a master in philology, my turn now. I've got a master in philology and I'm in the tech space. What am I doing? What am I doing here, right? But I think that when we look at diversity in the workplace, we need to look at this from different angles. So not only from a gender perspective or from a cultural background perspective, we need also really to look at what is the different type of work experiences coming from that. What is also what are the way that people are wired, right? And what it brings to the world. So having diversity on traits and character, so that we make sure that you don't have a biased view and biased level of decisions. There was a few years ago now, I think it's already 10 years in the meantime, but when Volkswagen had the Dieselgate, you remember that, the road that they did that was done with regard to the level of diesel exhaustion that they had. Mm-hmm. There is a say, and again, no one can prove it because, it was not measured at the time, but there is a say that, if they had more diversity in the boardroom at the time, well, maybe that scandal would not have taken place. We'll never know. It's probable, but we'll never know. But that comes with different aspects of diversity around the decision table.
Globally, do you think that we have now moved on from that moment, that there is more diversity on boards?
It goes by waves, right? I mean, if you see at the focus on that lately compared to a few years ago, it has changed. I think that overall, our younger generation are much more open than the previous generations, and it will become also much more normal, I would say, to have more different background into work and into life, and it starts from home, right? I mean, if kids are growing in an environment where tasks are shared between all the members of the family, it enables them also to be more open to that. So I think that it's generational. It's normal. I mean, every generation changes and brings something to the other.
I was thinking about it from boards. I remember. I find it. I've just moved to Dubai, right? So I'm going now, and I'm starting to go for events and networking. And it's interesting how I always see the same. It's almost like in the same circles. You end up seeing the same people at certain events. And I was like, and I asked myself, am I echo chambering myself that I'm only staying down this one lane? And I do not want to stay down that lane. I want to stay diversified mentally and also emotionally and intellectually. Mm-hmm. So when it comes down to, so it got me thinking, globally with all that is happening now, AI is coming in. When Albania that says, we're thinking about getting an AI minister, and I thought, well, what are we looking at 5 years down the line, where diversity of thinking or diversity of perspective, how is that going to be affecting in the future?
Well, you already have, AI members in the, like AI bots to help minister to take some decisions, even here in the UAE, right? At the end of the day, it all depends on, how those models are going to be trained as well, and who is training them, and which is the level of bias that they bring into table as well, and also what is the level of counter bias that they're going to bring, because sometimes you see results that are to laugh for, because some of the models have been trained to overcompensate potential bias, and so you receive answers that just do not make sense. And again, I think that this is going to evolve as we speak. I mean, I don't know if you've ever asked online to show a picture of Mother Teresa fighting racism. You will see very interesting images that are created by the AI. Just try it. It's very. You can have very funny examples.
I think I know what I'm doing today.
But it's as I say, I think it really starts from the beginning at school and in the family. Raising that. Continuous questioning of, does it make sense? Could it be another way? Right? That's the with that, and of course, I always tell my children, because I always telling my children, okay, it's very important to know what has been said and done before, history, literature, research, everything, but then evolution is about continuing adding something to that with the circumstances that are happening today, right? This is with the technology that is happening today, but without, forgetting what was done in the past. So it's a continuous change. This, in literature, call that palimpsest, which is writing on top of rewriting, on top of history. Some of the archetypes that we have exist, since ancient Greece and many years, right? But you keep on transforming with the new reality of the world.
Where do you see women going with transforming of the world, where we are at today?
Well, today we see that there is more presence of women in leadership position and in board, but it's still, a relatively minority. What you say is that if you've got one woman on board, it's a tick in the box. You've got two, it becomes a curiosity. You've got three, like, or 30%, well, we start, talking about having a real impact, right? I hope that moving forward, gender diversity is going to be less a question. What I think that is going to be more of a question moving forward is or ability of critical thinking. And here, I fear that you will end up with a society that is even more divided between those using tools and machine to augment themselves and those using tools and machines to feed themselves. Okay, to intellectually feed themselves as opposed to augment.
To me, I agree with you. It's very concerning that critical thinking is going to be off the table. And
outsourcing critical. I mean, the biggest danger is the outsourcing of critical thinking, right?
And even then, like now, simple stuff like fact checking. You were speaking about having those conversations on the table with your children about checking history, looking back. And I've been on social media. I've been very curious about how it's being told to us in the last couple of weeks. No, I would say last 6 months. And I'll hear someone tell me, oh, this podcast by this tech bro, Google or Facebook. And I'm like, oh, but I find it so interesting that the people who are talking about AI is primarily men.
Have you seen the lineup of the Future X Summit that is happening as we speak in Dubai? There was one woman and I don't know how many men in the speakers. So yes, there is clearly a challenge here.
So when we say, there are more women, there are more women and there's critical thinking, but I don't see women with the critical thinking. Their voices being part of the conversation that needs to be. I mean, I don't want to keep getting quoted by Google, by ex-Google so-and-so, or by Facebook, this is where our future is going to be, or Sam Altman. You really want to hear women with that critical thinking, because women do have that, but every time we stay in that whole realm, going all the way back to where we started with the, I'm good enough, am I in the imposter? It's like we stay in this loop here, right? When actually this loop here is where all the changes happen. So I'm always wondering, what is that solution to jump from here to here? I mean, if you can think along with me on this one.
Yeah. There are a number of figures in the tech space that are women, but there are very few, and few and apart, right? And some also speaking out to the costs of their job, right? I mean, specifically whistleblower. I'm thinking, in the case of Google in particular, a few years back. Two things need to happen. To my opinion, right? Two things I think need to happen. So first of all, we need also to make sure that from the very start, from the onstart, girls are not shy of STEM studies, right? Because this is also what we bring them into coding and so on and so forth. And, stop with the, boys are going to study engineering and girls will study literature. We'll stop with this and make sure that we give them all the options to get into the level field. And you will see also that there are more and more women that are actually embracing STEM studies and so forth. And the second point, making sure as well that as we look into those models, we also include other lateral thinking backgrounds, right? Yeah. So, I mean, a few weeks ago, I was publishing a blog and I was wondering, is it, with all this happening, is it a time where, suddenly people with a humanity background are going to come back to the workplace, like in, real business workplace? Because until recently they were, just good enough to write articles, and now AI is going to replace that. But then suddenly we realize, actually we've got a few issues related to to ethics and possible hallucination and so on and so forth. So maybe we still need, a human brain that can look into this. So the question that I have is, if we put together, on one hand, more women, female girls into STEM studies that are going to go deep dive into the coding at the core, and making sure there are no biases here. And if you add to that more lateral thinking from humanities studies, by doing this, will you be able to have something that is more inclusive? That's maybe a way of looking at it.
But then also we have to be quite okay to receive lateral thinking, because at the moment it doesn't feel like we're ready and open to, well, I don't think that's really ever changed, but to receive lateral thinking.
The problem that at the moment is that we've got, a world that is on algorithms that just increase that perception of, divided world, right? This is like, pure fuel.
Absolutely. It's funny you say that, because I was on the phone this morning and my friend said, "Oh, have you seen the news? And this is what's all over." And I was like, "Yeah, I was on the news, but that didn't even appear." So I had to look at 5 different apps. I mean, literally 5 different news apps, and everything was just completely differently shared to me. And I literally sat there and going, okay, so what is very important for a culture is going to be put out there. The way it's being presented is also going to be put out there. And the way all of that is going to be fed in is also AI going to give you back. Mm-hmm. So that critical thinking, then I always ask, how are we going to navigate that going forward?
So, and this is where you need to play the algorithm, right? So I remember when Google came in, okay, we were, doing our search on Google, and okay, you look at the results. How many people were looking at page 2, 3, page 20 of your Google results? Almost no one, right? I mean, go beyond page 3. I don't, most of the time people don't go there. Yeah. Now it's even worse. You don't even go to the page. You go straight into the AI summary that tells you, what you were looking for. And by the way, if you really insist, really insist, here are the links where you can look into, right? Yeah. So this is kind of, where we are dangerously positioning ourselves. Now, the algorithm we should also try to get the algorithm to play in our favor. I remember a few years ago, I upset a friend. I did not do it on purpose, but I actually did. It was that, there was a controversy over the fact that everybody was talking about something that has happened with the Kardashians. Don't ask me what, I don't remember. And everybody was talking about this on social media, and no one was actually talking about the fact that there was a young girl that had been selected into a NASA program, right? And I simply answered to that. Well, on social media, the feed that you receive is the feed that you create, and you are the average of, the 5 people you comment the most with, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So by doing this, I was sense. Yes, except that the way that I put it, and I'm really, really sorry. And if in one day she hear this, I hope that she'll understand what I meant, because she took it as that, she didn't have good friends, which is not what I meant.
That personal attack feedback thing we were talking about. There you go.
But the point that I'm making, and that I'm trying to teach my daughters as well, is, the more intelligent content and the more, critical content you get, the more you should receive it as well, and and vice versa. Mm-hmm. Theoretically. Okay. So that's, yeah. But we are still very much at the mercy of, how strong are the pages that you have published in a search engine optimization program, right? So you can have great content and it's totally forgotten because it wasn't, correctly tagged and hence doesn't have the volume support to get onto your first page.
Yeah, I was thinking about that, and I totally agree with you. I'm sure we even touched upon it. Is that there's, to me, when I think about women and the content that's out there around women, it's much less. So sometimes when I do
or
search,
it's hyper curated, or it's there,
curated?
but it's hyper curated, and yeah.
So that makes it even more worse because I had no idea it gets hyper curated. But for me, it's worrying because if kids become using that as the new search engine, right? Or the new one to get information, how do we then trust ourselves with the information we receive? Because sometimes I mean, when I go on AI and I'm all into like, I want women to step forward, sometimes I see the information I get back, I go, why is it constantly trying to change a different point of view that I'm trying to insist on having in my, let's say, copywriting material? It'll do it. It'll keep changing it. It won't accept it. Like, it throws it out. Find it very interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, to safeguard us against that, we were talking about critical thinking earlier on, right? Yeah. The questioning, I mean, what's going to be the most fundamental skills moving forward is going to be the questioning. It's going to be the why, the 5 whys, the why, to understand and accept what you see, right? Because it's only if you decide not to outsource your critical thinking, okay, but the effort of going into, deep thinking research, that you can get beyond that. So you need to find that balance between, yes, today is all about, speed, but how much is speed and surface versus slightly less speed, but more depth.
Right? And that's where I think having more different lateral thinking in STEM, let's put it, not gender focused on it, but lateral thinking in STEM, I think that would be where the journey is going to go to. Personally, that's what I'm feeling, where it's going to, but also the importance of language, variety of language, and having the ability to express in different ways. Like you started, about speaking differently to different, stakeholders. When do you pull back? When do you go forward? I actually love all your points. I'm going to put them down and share them because these are very good indicators of where to navigate yourself going forward.
Exactly. When you need to pivot, right? Because I think that, at one point in our life, we all realize that if you do too much of something, it's going to counterbalance, right? This is always how it works. Your strength become your weaknesses by default.
All right. So I always ask one question now. What is it that we need to drop our noise about, and what do we need to become friends with our minds about going forward? If you had to leave it for the listeners, what would it be?
Drop the noise. For me, dropping the noise was getting that understanding that the way that my colleagues and my friends and my family was seeing me was not how I was perceiving myself. So for me, that was, getting that. Yeah, it was almost liberating, right? You still need to go through all the processes of, accepting it and realizing, but once you get, the other side, I think it's quite liberating. And what was the second question?
And so what do we got to befriend our minds about? That one thing that you go, oh, I wish the world would befriend their minds about this.
If people could understand that they, all come with a different type of value proposition to the table, and that's exactly what brings, the richness, that would help families and companies alike to to be more agile, more creative than if they all try to conform to what they believe is the right approach to a problem.
Oh, I like that. Okay, so this is what I want to leave you with today. Do you outsource your critical thinking? How much do you use that AI, and how much do you read your feeds, and how much do you let it affect the way you are thinking? What does it do to your trust and to the way you communicate? For me, when I had to reflect on the way I approached my diversity of perspective or my diversity of perception, I took a break. I took a 1 week break from social media, and boy, was that a different story. I thought, no, I'm not that hooked on it, but I was. And so I would be curious if you did that, if you invited that pause, what would show up? And I would love to hear and tell me more about it. If you are new to the show, please follow. And if you want to take it one step further, have you ever considered joining my Substack newsletter? That's where I give you more tips and insights. And also there's a chat facility, and I would love to know what your thoughts are around subjects like this. Hey, have a good one. Till the next one. Take care.